Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's stream. We'll get started in just a second. Good evening, George. Good evening, Frank. I see you in the chat there, as always. Very nice to see you again. Answered the questions in the chat very quickly. So, are we rebuilding Drentbourne? I kind of already answered that, but I'll say it again. I want to tweak the design a little bit, because as much as I like the design that you submitted, George, there's a couple of things like the freight-only lines, how they're going to be implemented, plus a couple of the entryways and exitways to the station might need a little bit of tweaking as well, depending on the lines that we'll be building tonight. And that's what I meant by tweaking the design. So if we build something tonight that doesn't quite fit in with the design, instead of scrapping the design and starting again, it just might need a little bit of tweaking in order to actually get it to work properly. So we'll be doing that. We'll be rebuilding the lines into Drentbourne at least, and then perhaps if we have time, looking at the design and tweaking it, but we won't be rebuilding the station tonight. In terms of planning services, it's very much dependent on time. Like most things in life at the moment, very much dependent on time. It's going to be a probably 2-hour stream, 2-hour 10 at the absolute latest. Just so that I have time to go off and do some other things. I was in the middle of a Factorio recording session, for example, and then I suddenly realised what the time was, and I suppose I'd better set up the OpenTTD stream. So, what are we doing tonight? We are going to be rebuilding the Southeastern Mainline between Buntbourne town, which is where we are now, right here, and Denston Carnegie. Let me just close that window. And then we will be rebuilding the route between Drentbourne and Bahecity Central. So last week we rebuilt the line between Denston and Drentbourne, so we don't have to worry about that now. But we will continue further east towards Bahecity to do some of the tweaking there as well. And then yes, if we have time, we will start planning out some Gardcity Southeastern and some Southeastern services. It will most likely be Southeastern services between Bahecity, Drentbourne, Denston, and Buntbourne. That kind of quad of stations. So here we are at Buntbourne town. I had in my head that I had to do a lot of rebuilding here, but I'm not actually seeing it. For those of you that don't know, this is the line that heads off down towards Munfingford, which again, if we have time, we might just fix tonight, because it's a relatively short line. You can see here where it actually enters Munfingford. And then we can add Munfingford Paragon to the list of stations that we can plan services from as well. And then over here, this line goes up towards, this one goes towards Gardcity, Dinport East, Sibbertshire, Shoreham Junction, and then Gardcity St Mark. This line here, I believe, heads out towards Fort Flonwood. Let's check that. Oh yeah, Fort Flonwood Parkway. It's doing alright still. It's getting by. Very underutilised at the moment, so we will have to fix that in the near future. Nirasa, welcome to tonight's stream. Good to see you here. So yeah, let's just get started. Instead of gossiping and banging on about stuff, I'm actually gonna get my backside in gear for a change and get started. Usual thing. Any comments? Any rail news or anything like that, feel free to mention it in the chat. Usual rules as well, try and avoid politics if you can. Again, it's very hard to talk about railways without politics being mentioned, but we will do our best, because politics is boring and depressing and just ugh. And I'm going to try not to rant tonight, and I say that every week and I always fail, but I'm going to try and avoid controversial topics. That's the trick. If you can nail that, you can nail anything. So the slow lines over, let me just follow this line. This is what was called the Great Central Line. It's now the Southeastern Mainline. Yeah, we're going to increase the size of Mundham Station as well, I think. Somewhere over here is where it meets up with Denston. There it is. So here we've got the two lines with the slow lines on the top. So I think the junction that I've got over at Buntbourne will need to get rebuilt slightly. Because this set of lines here, we're going to reroute the line through this gap here where the canal is. This part of the town is going to be allowed to grow back again. And then this is going to become like a straight-ish line. We're going to try and ease the curve out of Denston a little bit more, add some waypoints and all that kind of thing. So the fast lines essentially will be the bottom two lines here, and then we'll be able to run express services between Gardcity and Bahecity along this line. So yeah, we'll do that. Also, George, I know you asked about creating maps and services, and I was very, very vague in my answer, so I apologise for that. Those of you who've watched the channel for a long time, you know I like to sort of withhold secrets. I don't like to just give everything away. But I am planning a new series based on the M4J network, where we just track trains along the along whatever line they're on and whatever service they're running. So, for example, the pilot episodes that I wanted to do involved the Great Western route, and I'll use like a text-to-speech type announcer for you know, when you go on a train that says this service is for such and such calling at XYZ. So it'd be that kind of setup. Now I don't know entirely yet how I'm going to do it, where I'm going to get the voices from. It probably will be text-to-speech software, so I'll have to look into getting that. But along with the voice telling you the stations and things like that, I was going to have a little bar along the bottom. So like at the start of the video, there would be a graphic that shows you the route that you're going to take, and then as you travel along in the train, there'll be a bar along the bottom that shows you how far away you are from each destination. That'll be in like tube map style. So if anyone is interested, doesn't have to be George, can be anyone, in helping create maps for that series, feel free to get in touch, because that's exactly the kind of thing I'm looking for right now. I think it'd be quite fun to do something like that. It's a little bit different, but it also ties in nicely with what we've been doing in the M4J network. Right, I kind of want to build two sets of main lines here, slightly separate from one another. So what I mean is doing this. Well, no, maybe not that. That didn't work. Doing this. You're asking the right kind of person. Well, there you go. I had a feeling I might have been. So it will be route maps in general is one of the things I'm looking for, but also tube map. You know, like on tube carriages, you have like a flat 2D version of the map as well. So it'll be an overall route map showing all of the services around Gardcity on the Great Western line, and then that's not what I wanted to do. And then a individual service maps, and then I'll have to try and find a way to animate. I mean, it should be quite easy. I've done animations like that before, but basically I animate a train diagram logo type thing along the map to make it look like you're traveling along it. It's a problem for me to work out that one. I'm not expecting anyone to be able to help with that, or even want to help with that. That's part of the challenge I've set myself, is to learn a new animation trick. Something else I wanted to talk about, if you look at the episode plans you'll see it, cash flow in the game. If anyone else has downloaded the latest version of the M4J network off my website, which you can go to now, m4jmedia.com or .co.uk, takes you to the same place. Has anyone else had problems with losing money? And if you have, and you've been able to fix it, how did you fix it? Because I cannot find a way to get it to work. I don't know how to... I've changed... Whoops, I keep pressing WASD. That's me playing Factorio right there. I've gone into the game settings, nothing there. I've gone into the config settings, nothing there. The only thing I've not done yet is hack into the source code again. It's not hacking, it's completely legit. You know what I mean. I've not had a look in the source files yet. I don't think there's going to be anything there that would help, though. There might be. I might be able to surprise myself. Googling does nothing, because there's like 2 lines of vaguely relevant information, and then it just goes into adverts for the game and the game's wiki and all that kind of thing. The OpenTTD wiki, and just Googling OpenTTD in general, I think it has to be the least community supported game in terms of help. It's the most community supported game in terms of, you know, people are constantly adding to the source code, but it's the least in terms of actual help and support if the game doesn't quite work properly. It's a real head scratcher, that one, as to why that is. I cannot put my finger on it. Right, Tenford is about to lose its station. Sorry about that, Tenford. Reason is we need to straighten this line up a little bit. I will read the chat again in a second. I'm really hoping tonight someone has an answer to that problem though, or can point me in the right direction at least, because I didn't want to say this, but this problem with the money right now is making this game unplayable. And if the game becomes too unplayable, then the series is in danger, I'm afraid, because I can't run the game right now. I literally cannot run the game without losing all the money. So you can see here we've got what's that? So we've got 933 million, 249 billion, 150 trillion. So is it quadrillion that comes next? And that's all been accumulated by using that script that I created that continuously left clicks on the add 10 million. And just every day when I've not been using this PC, I've had that script running in the background accumulating money. And it's not enough. Like, it takes me 3 days, I think, on average, to get to 1 quadrillion, and then it takes like 20 minutes for it to be lost again. And I'll show you what happens. I won't unpause the game, but I'll show you what happens. So I'll run the game, and you can see this number here. Every month, on the first of the month, I lose 31 trillion pounds. And I don't know why. I don't know how. If I go into the settings, I've got infrastructure costs are off. If I go into the new GRF settings, base costs, go into the parameters, miscellaneous is free. And if I scroll down here, steam engine running costs. So the train running costs, we're actually making more from trains than we're spending. That's good. New vehicles is costing us a lot, but that's not as often. So I take that one as a, I take the hitter basically. But down here, rail maintenance, road maintenance, canal maintenance, station maintenance, and airport maintenance, all free. They shouldn't cost me anything. And yet every month I lose 31 trillion pounds. How? Anyone have any ideas? Because I don't. And like I said, it's driving me up the wall at the moment because it's killing the game. It's killing the game and it's killing the series because of it. So if anyone can help in any capacity, even if it's just advising on how to access source codes and doing it that way, I don't mind. I just want to get it fixed because it is becoming very frustrating right now. Very, very frustrating. But I'll try and keep things on a positive note for the rest of tonight's stream. I want to get that out of the way first though, because like I said, I want to keep doing this series. It's fun, and I'm planning side series to do with this as well. So to answer your question, George, yes, it'll be a side series. So you remember the Majeffries network had the Majeffries overview, I think it was called. It'll be along those lines. So I see a lot of posts on Reddit as well of people doing that kind of video, and I kind of wanted to give it a go myself and see if I was any good at it. So that's where the inspiration came from. You could say it was stolen from Reddit. But one of the things that bugged me about people doing it on Reddit is I just didn't feel like they quite put the right knowledge into it. Like it didn't feel like a real train journey. Yeah, it's the other. And the Googling I did say, the Googling I did do, suggested that it was to do with rail maintenance, and tax was on there as well. But I mean, base costs. The reason I downloaded the base costs new GRF was to try and fix the problem that way. And I genuinely thought I'd done it. Like, I got the train costs down, and I was really happy. And then the other just kept biting me in the backside each time. And nothing I've changed in the base cost mod has actually fixed it. It's, if anything, it's stayed exactly the same. It's not got worse, but it's not got better. I'm trying to not bother Lieutenant Joker with this stuff at the moment, because when I asked him on stream that time about increasing the vehicle order limit, he kind of made it pretty obvious that he has no interest in working on the game at the moment. And I know he's got his own stuff going on at the moment, and I just don't really feel like it's appropriate to bug him about it, because at the end of the day, it's very selfish of me to just send someone a message and say, hey, fix my problem. Even though it's his patch, it's an open source game, so he has no obligation to actually fix it if it is broken, which I don't think it is. I think that some of the numbers might have been fudged somewhere, but I'm not sure if that's a patch issue or if that's a source code issue, because they're different things. Yeah, it's just very frustrating. It is very frustrating, because actually that side series involves having to have the game unpaused for long periods of time, and I don't really want the first comment on every video to be, why are you losing all your money? Because just, I know my audience, and I know that's the exact question they'll ask, and I don't have an answer, and I don't really want to be asked it. So yeah, like I said, if anyone can help, greatly appreciated. Whoops, did not mean to move that. I'm misclicking everywhere tonight. Let me move my stool so that I'm actually in a comfortable position for the next hour and a half or however long. See, I'm not going to bother Joker about it. I might put something up on the OpenTTD Reddit and see if someone can help. But again, I've done so much of that recently. I've just gone on Reddit and just gone, please help. And I kind of want to be able to fix it myself, but at the same time, I've tried so hard to fix it myself and nothing's working. So if anything, I need someone who knows how to find their way around the source code to actually go into the source code and see if there's an issue there. Because if it's a case of changing one or two numbers, then it's an easy fix as far as I'm concerned. If it's a bit more in depth than that, then we'll have to find another way to get it fixed, get it sorted. So yeah, minor inconvenience, let's say. Minor inconvenience that is threatening the future of the series. Those are strong words, I know. Alright, these two lines are kind of going to integrate together here. I'm doing something based on, I think it's called the Quarry Lines. It's on the London to Brighton route, where the fast lines and the slow lines split for a period and then come back again, I think just before East Croydon. And the reason they do that is because there were two rival companies. I can't remember what they were called. I think it was like the London Brighton South Coast Railway and another railway that I can't remember the name of right now. They had their own tracks. I think it was one rented track space or track paths from the other, and then they had a big falling out, and in retaliation they built their own route, which basically ran parallel to the original route, but I think ran a little bit more direct or something like that, took a slightly different route, and the two lines split at Redhill and then rejoined, I think just before Croydon, or I might have gone south. I can't remember the exact formalities. It really doesn't matter to the story. The main point of that is these days, because when British Rail inherited it, they had, when Southern inherited it back in 1920 something, when the grouping happened, they ended up with 4 tracks, which they didn't need. So they turned 2 into the fast lines and 2 into the slow lines, and that's basically what we've done here. As you can see, that actually coincidentally lines up properly. If it didn't, I'd have made it line up properly. So the fast lines are going a little bit more direct, and the slow lines are kind of snaking their way through neighbouring towns and cities to pick up people. Could it be from the authorities? SimSig have just released a signalling sim of this route. It has all the way from Norwood to Brighton. That's cool. Yeah, I've looked at local authorities and I've used the base cost mod on that as well. It hasn't fixed anything. I looked at industries, because one of the things I did read once upon a time was that if you fund industries, you have to pay an annual fee each year to basically for their upkeep. So I changed that in the base cost. Still doesn't do anything. Everything's set to free. Everything that could come under the category of other has been set to free. And yet it still costs me £31 trillion a year. That number is so high. Isn't that like 30 or 3.1 times 10 to the power of 9? I think it's 9. Might be higher. Which is just an astronomically high number. Really high number. And that's, in fact, that's not even a year. That's per month. That's how much we're losing per month. So you times that by 12. That's how much we're losing per year. So it's the hundreds of quadrillions at that point. Too much money is the short answer to that. We are losing too much money per month, and then even more too much money per year on something that I don't know why. I don't know why we lose that much. I don't know why we have to pay that much even. So as I say, it's a call to arms, a call for help, an appeal for help. Anyone at all knows why that's the case. Or if anyone's willing to ask questions on forums, do a little bit of digging on my behalf, that'd be great. I'd love to be able to do it myself, but I just have not been able to find the time. That'd be much appreciated. Try and get to the bottom of this issue and actually get it fixed. Alright, so the fast lines here at Mondon, we're going to have the two main lines here interchange with one another. So I need to get the fast lines back over to where the slow lines are. I think here will also be a good spot to have some crossovers between the fast and the slow. So let's just bulldoze a line through this. I held control. You all saw that, right? I held control. Why did it do that? Okay, well, we're going to rebuild this mess then. So first and foremost, this station's going to get put back in at some point. And then that's going to go there. This is going to come down like this. We'll fill this in. We'll fill this in. How much is the debt? It is 31. Right, hang on. I'm going to check to make sure it is trillion. So it was the 31 was here. So that's. Oh wait, 31 was here. Sorry. So yeah, it's you know, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, million, 10 million, 100 million, billion, 10 billion, 100 billion, and then it was where that 2 is for the 23. That was 31 instead. So it's 31 trillion pounds. And that's a month. A month. Can you imagine spending that in a month? DGTZ 1982, welcome to the stream. You're onto something there. That was the next point I was going to make, in fact, was someone mentioned, because we were in the year 5000 and something before I rolled it back to 1990. And someone mentioned on one of the forums, I can't remember which one it was now, that sometimes having inflation turned on, particularly if you play beyond what the game was designed to do. So the game was designed to last for 100 years. Basically, so 1950 to 2050. If you play it beyond that with inflation turned on, it can cause astronomically high prices and high fees. The thing with that is, I can't think of a way to reverse that. Like, I've reset the clock. We're back to the 1990s. That's not changed the inflation. Inflation's been turned off for quite a long time now. That's not changed anything. So I can't think of why. It probably is inflation, that's the thing, but I can't think of how to not have that be an issue anymore, because you know we've gone past 5,000 odd years now. So if that's the cause, then there's no solution, which sucks. That'd be a real bad time if that turns out to be the case. Just having fun. I saw your name there as well. Welcome to the stream. We're doing some big rebuilding projects tonight. Big, big, big. Right, I'm not even going to bother holding down control this time. Just, yeah, get rid of it. And that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that. I should also say as well, regardless of the solution to the money problem, this week's stream will be the last stream for like 2 weeks maybe, because I feel like I need a break from streaming as well. Nothing bad, just burnout, I think is the best way of saying it. A lot of my YouTube content, like the upload schedule and everything, kind of went to pot a little bit over the last couple of weeks because I was working on the website and I was doing some XVI stuff, and there's loads more XVI stuff that needs doing over the next couple of weeks. So the streaming might go away for a little bit, but it will be back, and I'll tell you that now. It will be back, and actually working on the sub series was going to be what I was. It was going to be what I was going to fill the time with between streaming, which again is why I kind of want to get that problem fixed as a matter of urgency, because it would be nice to be able to just run the game. Also, just in general, I haven't, apart from occasionally moving trains out the way and doing a little bit of timetabling tests, I've not unpaused the game for about 3 months now because of this money problem. I just, it's so dumb that it's even an issue, but here we are. Alright, fast lines go through Mondum there, and now we're going to separate them again. And I've got to try and think of a way of doing that. This station's going to get moved over a tile, so we'll factor that in. Also, the existing... Whoops, I think I demolished the wrong thing there. The existing lines also have to be electrified, third rail. And actually, for re-signalling purposes, I'm going to remove all the stations on this line. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. I ate not long ago. I always do that. I eat just before the stream, and then I have hiccups for like the first hour. What was I saying? Something really important, I'm sure. Oh yeah, I'll be removing all of the stations, re-signalling the whole route, and then I'll put the signals back, the stations back in. Sorry. So I might as well remove this one now, so we can connect these up as well. So the plan here for the fast lines, at least, is to divert them this way through their own like little cutting. Alright, George is posting the problem on Reddit. Hopefully then someone picks up on it, and I say I'm not even expecting someone to say, this is the problem, here's how you fix it necessarily, but just advice really on what's going on. It would be nice, because I don't know enough about programming still, and I always tell myself I'll learn, but it's kind of something you realize as you get older, is you always want to fix things yourself, to be able to fix things yourself, but sometimes you do have to just hold your hands up and say this is over my head. And you always want to learn new skills, and again sometimes you have to just hold your hand up and say this is probably not the right thing for me to be learning. Programming is something in theory I can get my head around. Like I've done some programming recently for my website, and there it's like you define a value, and then you define something and then you tell it how you want it to function. So I was writing scripts the other day for an email script that I was writing, and again you define parameters. So in that case it was, I wanted to take information from a spreadsheet and convert it into a calendar invite, which then gets emailed out to XVI members. So I understood the whole concept of, you define the value, so you say this is the value that goes into this field, this is the value that gets taken from this cell. I understood all that. It's linking it all together that became difficult, and as it turns out, I thought Google had an implementation between pretty much all of their their services that they offer, but it turns out they don't between Google Sheets and Google Calendar, not without using AppScript, and even then it didn't function in the way that I wanted it to, so that idea had to be scrapped, which was unfortunate. How long's this route again? Okay, we're not far off. It's one of these things, when you're planning it out on paper, you kind of sit there and just go, yep, this will be easy, no problem. And then when you actually do it, you don't realise how long these routes are. So it'll be, whoops, really nice to actually see this in action. Which is another reason why I want to fix the money problem. Let's remove that antenna. There it goes. So yeah, the lines are going to briefly cross over here, which again does happen on the quarry lines. I was about to say happens twice, but no, I think it only happens once. Again, I can't remember. It's been so long since I actually travelled on a train on the London to Brighton route. Everyone likes the London to Brighton route. I don't understand it. On Train Sim, I think it's the most played route in the game, and I've driven it a couple of times, and I just find it so boring. Like, there's a lot of trains, sure, but there's no junctions, and that's what I like with networks and looking at railway stations and things like that. I like things where there's trains coming from all directions, and Clapham Junction is the only place on the London to Brighton route where that happens, and even then, 9 times out of 10, trains on the London to Brighton route don't even go through Clapham Junction. So, I mean, East Croydon, I suppose, is a big interchange station as well. But besides that, it's just 2 straight lines that occasionally go through tunnels. You've got Gatwick Airport, you've got 3 bridges, but beyond that, there isn't really much to look at. Plus, I am sort of biased. I don't like third rail electrification. I think it's very archaic. It works well for metro systems, but in terms of, like, when it gets to winter and the rails get icy, you see lots of arcing, trains can't move, slipping and sliding everywhere, and when you have your base source of power facing up to the sky, it's very easy for that base source of power to get whoops, just dumped the keyboard. What's the word? Contaminated, I suppose is a good word, by the weather conditions. So say snow and ice can kill a rail route very quickly. Yeah, we're going to reroute the line here, I think, through the south of Little Wanham. So we've got a nice little 4-track gap right here. I'm going to do something a little like this. In fact, it'll be more like that. There we go. And the slow line is going to cross back over the fast line. Somewhere around here. Something like this, and then along here as well, and then we'll just finish that bit off like that. There we go, and then hop up and over this. And there you go, slow lines have crossed back over. Alright, chat's gone very quiet. Everyone okay? So what's going on in the rail world at the moment? There's not a lot that I've been aware of. I was reading an article this morning, in fact, about Newcastle Central Station, and I think it's a 5.2 million renovation plan that's been announced recently for that. I've only been to... It's funny, like my family hails from Newcastle, and I've only really been there like 4 or 5 times, and only twice by train. So I've not really seen Newcastle Central that much. It's very impressive from photos I've seen, but I kind of wish I'd seen it in the flesh a bit more, you know. But it's good, you know, north of the country getting some attention for rail improvement. That's always good to see. I'm sure there was something else that I read the other day as well. New trains on Chester to Leeds, that's good. So that'll be the 195s and the 397s. Is it 397? I'm probably wrong. Someone will correct me. Someone always corrects me. Right. We're nearly done. Good stuff. So we're going to come over towards the slow lines again here. Now we are going to need some crossovers again before this junction. But I think what I'm going to do is reroute this line so that it goes straight. Let's remove some of this. So you'll go like this, and then we'll have the fast line. Oh wait, no, I said we were going to rebuild this, didn't I? Duh. Hey Ben, always love going into Newcastle Station, going over the Tyne, then it comes, then it corners to the curved platforms. It's a really nice design. It's a really well built station, and very impressive. You consider the fact that it's not modern, that design. It's been around since 1852, I think I read. It was designed by some very well known architects. The route itself into Newcastle was designed and financed by, well, it was designed by Robert Stephenson, and then it was financed by George Hudson, and they are huge names in the rail industry. I think George Hudson was known as the Railway King at one point because of the number of projects he was involved in. So there's a lot of very good names involved in the creation of Newcastle Station, and it's just a very nice design. It's good to see that it's getting some care and attention. It's also good to see that it's getting care and attention so soon from a previous refurb project that happened back in 2014, in fact. So they're putting a lot of love into it now. I've just accidentally made this perfectly straight. I'm actually okay with that. Hey, right. So we can flatten all this. So the new station is going to get built here, and then we'll have the crossovers, whoops, straight after the station. And then we will go into the separate tracks again. So the fast lines will pretty much go in a straight line from here through a tunnel, and we'll connect up over here somewhere. And then the slow lines will go round, connecting up all the little towns there. Is that really sea level? Crikey. There we go. End of the Mark III sleeper coaches on the Highland Sleeper last night. Oh yeah. Yeah. All the stations mentioned that earlier. Hopefully they've got the brake problems fixed on the Mark 5As now then. Is it the Mark 5? No, the Mark 5As I think are Transpennine. I think it's just the Mark 5s on Caledonian. Again, someone will correct me. Someone always corrects me. Why is it not letting me... Oh, was there a piece of track in there? I think there was. It's one of the things I like doing in OpenTTD, is going around and just simplifying junctions and stuff like that, because I like busy, complex junctions, but sometimes it's nice just to have it streamlined a little bit more. And actually Newcastle was a very good example of that done well. There's a famous interchange that used to exist at the eastern end of Newcastle Station called the Diamond Crossing, and it was literally a series of diamond crossings, and it was great until it caused massive problems. So they went and simplified all the junctions. It's another thing I like about Newcastle is you can leave the station in either direction and head north or south, because you can use the two bridges over the Tyne as a loop. It's a really clever design, really clever design. Okay, I think I'm just going to do straightforward crossovers like that, and then we'll have the station platforms. Actually, I won't do it right now, but the station platforms will go like here, and then we'll have that as a gap, and then that. So around here, I'm just putting my finger on the screen. Around here will be where the crossovers onto the fast lines occur. So this will mainly be trains that aren't going to Denston, but are instead heading down towards Drentbourne from the slow lines. Although I wager that most slow trains would go up into Denston and then reverse. Possibly. Happens at Bradford. We could try it here at least and see if it worked. We are going to have to then reduce the size of this tunnel just a smidge to get some waypoints in. How many did we have on this? Oh, we haven't built any yet. Mind you, it's a long way this way before you cross over. So the waypoints are going to be over here somewhere. We'll make it work. We'll find a way to make it work. If we have to extend the tunnel in the future, so be it. Oh, sorry. If we have to shorten the tunnel in the future, so be it. But I like that. That fits quite nicely with what I'm trying to do here. Been wanting to go back to Isle of Rum. Isle of Rum. But the best way is by train, and that still takes 14 hours. Oh, in Scotland. Gotcha. To get to Malig for a ferry. Yeah. One thing, I've been watching a lot of PTG Rails route learning videos. I think that's what he calls them. And the western lines of Scotland are not the best advert for travelling by train. The view, spectacular. That's not the issue. The problem is, because the line is built in such a precarious location, they obviously want to avoid derailments and crashes as much as possible. Because of that, the speed limit is like 45 miles an hour, and you can drive at 60 on the road next to it. So obviously car is going to win. Even if, I'm pretty sure even bus travel is quicker up in the west of Scotland than it is to get on a train, which is not what you want to see, really. You want buses to be slower than trains. Otherwise, why would you get the train? You just get the bus instead. So I think they need to electrify the route, particularly like it's tricky because you've got the steam specials during the summer, so you don't want to electrify the viaduct there. But I think you want to have some of the route electrified and perhaps use bi-mode trains, just to speed them up a little bit, get it going a little bit faster. I tell you what would work very well on a route like that is tilting technology. So why not grab a Super Voyager from cross country and stick that on the western coast of Scotland? Update on Reddit post. Turns out you have an extra follower. Do I? Someone didn't know who you were, and 2 people replied, but no answer yet. Well, I mean, the intention wasn't to gain additional followers, but I'll never say no. Oh, I don't like coach travel. I'll always choose train because I get motion sickness on road vehicles, and I don't get it as bad on trains. Still sometimes get motion sickness, but not as much. It's really unfortunate because I probably would enjoy travelling, in truth, or at least going from point A to point B. Again, this is personal opinion, so don't take it as gospel, but I really hate these people who go on about how much they travel. Like, I love travelling the world, because really they don't. They go on a 10-hour flight to Thailand, and then they go look at some temples and stuff like that, and then they go get absolutely bladdered by the swimming pool, and then they fly home a week later. That's not travelling. Getting a boat to France and then backpacking around Europe, that's travelling. What they really mean is, I want to go somewhere that no one else goes, and in doing so I end up going somewhere that everyone goes. That's what they mean by I like to travel. But I would like to explore Europe by rail. Go on one of those great railway journeys. I think we, even if we leave the EU, I think we can still get the Euro rail card. If we can't, then I'm stuffed. But if we can, then I might look into doing that one day. Who knows? It might be interesting. I'll definitely take a camera with me and vlog it. Okay, I think we've finished this kind of major rebuild now. I am going to cut back these lines here. So Little Wanham Station. I think this is actually Little Wanham. Oh no, it's just Little Wanham. I thought it was Little Wanham and Senfingley then. But no, just Little Wanham. So Little Wanham Station will get moved, but for now it will just get taken apart. So one of the good things about keeping the game paused is the names will remain in the background somewhere. Eurorail. Interrail, that's the one. Thank you, Frank. Interrail. My dad did that when he was a youngster, so he's always telling me about it. Sounds like a fun thing to do. I mean, times have changed since what would have been the 70s, 80s, something like that. Because what my dad did was he bought the Interrail with no knowledge of where he was going, where he was staying, and what he was doing. And every morning, pretty much, they wake up at the hostel and just say, right, where are we going today? And they'll get on the train in France, get off in Poland. You know, just really random rail journeys and staying in random hostels. I would probably plan it out a little bit more than that. Plus, I'd throw little things in, like I really want to do a Disney park tour of the world. So I would probably tie it in with like going to Disneyland Paris, because you know, at the end of the day, as I've always said, my theme park enthusiasm always outmatches my rail enthusiasm. And it's not even close. That's the thing. It's not even close. That still surprises people when I tell them that. I really wanted, out of both these series on my channel, I wanted the Planet Coaster one to be more popular than this one. Which sounds really dumb. Because you should really appreciate what you've got. But at the same time, it wasn't what I was expecting. But I do like it still. My Planet Coaster streams were nowhere near as entertaining as these OpenTTD ones. I guess that's one of the problems. I always give that as advice to up-and-coming YouTubers as well, is don't expect anything. Don't start a series expecting it to be your breakthrough. You know, don't create a series specifically to get views or anything like that. Just do what you enjoy, and if there's other people out there who enjoy the same thing, they will find you. It might take 6 years of your life, and you might have moments where you question why you're still doing it, but it will eventually you know, people will eventually find your work and hopefully enjoy it as much as you want them to. But I'm always reading on the YouTube Reddit community, there's always people saying, you know, I uploaded my first video last week, how long till I can get monetization? And I always just want to say to those people, you're going to fail. Pure and simple, your channel is going to fail because all you care about are the ones and zeros and the dollar signs, and that's not how you create a successful YouTube channel. It's how you create a successful business, but not a successful YouTube channel. Cheers, bro. That is legitimately my brother, by the way. I didn't just turn into a surfer, dude. Alright. So, station rebuilds. Let's take apart all the stations that currently exist on the line. And then we'll re-signal the entire route from start to finish. And then we'll rebuild all the stations one by one. As well as renaming a few of them. So, George, thank you very much for that list you made the other day. But it might need some amendments. I think I'll do the amendments though, because it's not very fair to just keep throwing work on people like that. Oh wow, this is meta. Wait, have you just renamed your channel, Tom, or is that a different thing? For those of you that don't know, my brother has a YouTube channel as well, The Golfing Gamer, where I keep buying him games for him to play on his channel, and then he never does. But Tom focuses more on things like Spyro and Crash Team Racing. He's been streaming Crash Team Racing for the last few days, in fact. I'm more of the builder gaming fan. Tom's more of the, what would you call it, like story-based type games. I like story-based type games too, but not as much. And yeah, Golfing Gamer is the name of the channel. So if you like my stuff, we've got a similar sense of humour. Like I said, very different types of gaming, but you never know, you might be surprised. Different thing. Ah, there you go then. Right, signal this. Yeah, it does make me laugh to see people on Reddit talking about, you know, I uploaded my first video last week, it's only got 10 views, what did I do wrong? Nothing. You didn't do anything wrong. It's like walking out into the middle of a field full of 1 million cows and trying to find one specific cow. You're not going to find it just by looking like that. Eventually, if you look long enough, you will find it. But if you just upload a video one day and expect to immediately hit 1 million subscribers, you really need to get a grip on reality. And it's only this year where I've been really angsty about my channel, because I realised this year that it was 6 years since I started my channel, and the first 100 subscribers took 18 months. The second 100 subscribers took, I think, 7 or 8 months after that. The third 100 took like 3 or 4 months after that. And then since I hit 800 subscribers, it's been 2.5 years, and I've only just hit 987 subscribers this week. So basically, that's why I got quite annoyed about the fact the channel wasn't growing, because the growth rate was so good for so long, and then funnily enough something happened to YouTube, which we all know happened just over a year ago now, 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago in fact, and that completely changed the way channels grow on YouTube now. And yeah, like I said, we all know what that incident was. We don't need to say it out loud. But it killed most people's YouTube channels, died as a result of that. And a lot of people I followed on YouTube shut down their channels within a week of that change being announced. And haven't come back since. And I didn't want to do that, because at the end of the day, I wasn't going to let stupid actions of one person affect my channel that much. Like, of course it has affected my channel, but I wasn't going to let it get to me that much. I wasn't going to quit. Alright. I'm probably going to have to re-signal. I'm just going to leave it. It's fine. It's like creating a new business and expecting it to be the next big thing. If you get 10 views on your first video, I'd question what you did right. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I mean, I always think my breakthrough was Cities in Motion 2, because that's the first video I ever uploaded that got to 1,000 views, and even now it's nearly at 20,000 views, which is insane. But because it's a 5-year-old video now, the view count is you know, it's basically stopped. One person a week might watch it now, but that's it. The channel views in general are quite good. They're quite encouraging. But when you divide it by how many videos I've actually got, it looks less good. So it really is just one of those things. I just realised I don't think I signalled this right at all. And also I didn't check to see if I'd actually rebuilt these lines properly. I originally made this channel to vlog at uni, but then like an idiot, instead of rebranding this channel, I made another one. Haha! There's your mistake. That's the other thing I see on Reddit, is people who, like, there's a guy who had a prank video channel. Like, he told his mum his girlfriend was pregnant or whatever. I don't know. You know, those really bad prank channels that you wish would just disappear. He had one of them, and then he changed it to start doing like film reviews or something. And I mean, he rebranded his channel. That's the thing. He made all his old videos private and he rebranded the channel. But what he forgot to change was the trailer to his channel. So you go onto his channel for the first time, and you just see a guy walking towards the camera holding a gun. And it's not exactly the kind of message you want to send out in the first 10 seconds of your channel. But I will say, George, for the business thing, speaking as a business owner as well as a YouTube content creator, they're more different than you think. They are more different than you think, because at uni, for example, all these networking events that I've been to, we've potentially got like 300 clients already who have said they will download the free demo of our game when it's ready, which won't be too far away, by the way, if anyone here is interested. Although my boss is here at the moment, so I'll bite my tongue a little bit. And that was a lot easier. To get those people interested in the game was a lot easier than to get people interested in my channel. Because I've been to things before. Like even these networking events, I've mentioned that I've got a YouTube channel, and they go, "Oh, brilliant, what's your channel name?" And I tell them, and my sub count doesn't move. And again, that's fine, because not everyone wants to watch that kind of thing. You know, I'm not expecting millions of subscribers because I told someone at uni one time. But growing a business is actually, getting your audience is quite a lot easier, because you're selling a product rather than a service. We're selling a product rather than a service. And we have things like Steam that will go around and advertise our game on our behalf as well. So there's a subtle difference. I get the analogy though. The analogy works. You know, it is like starting a new business and just expecting to become Bill Gates overnight. It ain't gonna happen. But I have found getting people interested in my business is a lot easier than getting people interested in my channel. And even advertising myself as a person. You know, I write my CV and I mention, you know, I can do web design, I can do UI, UX design, coding, all that kind of stuff. And I get lots and lots of phone calls from people wanting to offer me a job. But then I mention, you know, I can do video editing as well. I can do sound editing. Look, I have a YouTube channel. No one checks it. Cough, cough. Yes. Hey, I don't want to put the pressure on, Ben, but demos are ticking. Alright, this line is fully converted. I think I did check it just now, and it looks all good. It's amazing though. Like, I go to these events and I sit down and people come up to me and, you know, they introduce themselves, they tell me what they do, and then I introduce myself, and as soon as I say we're a games developer, suddenly I'm the only person in the room that people want to talk to. It's funny, because actually some of the people who I've met at these networking events, they're geniuses. They've got really good business ideas. Some of them are developing products that will change the world, and yet they want to talk to me about pixel art. It's staggering. I'm flattered, don't get me wrong. I think it's great. Love the attention. But some of these people, I think, need to give themselves a bit more credit. As I say, I'd rather talk to them about their stuff than talk about my stuff. But I talk about our stuff because it's my job. And I wouldn't be a very good marketing director if I didn't market the company. So yeah, I do my job, boss. I do. Honest. Alright, let's get these stations built. How long have we been going for? Almost an hour. That's about good timing, actually. It's always a happy coincidence that I happen to finish the first part of the stream just as we reach the halfway point of the stream. And believe me, this is not intentional. So I'm hoping the second half will be a little bit easier, because we're going to be building stuff that should already exist. Whereas this side, we were rebuilding a lot of stuff. Let's make this station a bit more modern. What should we have here? I kind of want to build, maybe not here, maybe a couple of stations down the line. I wanted to build a station with a level crossing. As I say, we'll do that a little bit further down. I think Little Wanham, we should have a 4-track station. I like that idea. Let's build it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think we'll go with these ones, 5 and 6. There we go, looking good. And then follow the slow line, so we're going to have a station here as well. These signals I'm going to move to under the bridge, because then we can build the station connected to the bridge. So let's do this one. 1, tickets, sign, 4, 5. So yeah, this is a good candidate for a level crossing station. 1, 2, 3. I think we'll just make this a 4 tile, this one, and then we'll have a bigger station over here. 1, 2, 3. Actually, let's do it this way around. Keep building stations the same way around, and it's a little bit tiresome. There we go. And then we come over. There's none here, is there? Nope. So the next one is probably going to be here for Runtborough, and then we got the big station at Mondham as well. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and then here at Mondham. Of course, the signals would be right where I wanted to build. That's fine. So we've got 1, stairs for 2, benches for 3, signs for 4. Actually, let's just do this. Whoops. Actually, yeah, we'll do signs. We'll use this one, and then we'll go 5 and 6, like so. Mondham West will still be built over here. And again, I'll move these signals slightly. This will only be a little 4 tile station as well. So let's hold shift. And then this big space in the middle I'm going to let grow back and be part of the town again. Let's just do something like that. There we are, and actually these signals I'll move back to there, so they're not quite as far away as they should have been. Good stuff, right. So another big bridge type station here at Great Muffing Pool. We're trying to avoid building shelters at every station. Some of these wouldn't really need shelters. You only really turn up just before your train arrives, so you're not going to be sitting around for too long. Yeah, let's do this. So we'll have like a 4-track level crossing here, which again isn't a major issue. Put some benches and then that. Why is YouTube emailing me to tell me that I'm live? I know I'm live. Been live for an hour. Been chatting away. God, wouldn't it be embarrassing if it turned out I wasn't live? I think I'd have noticed by now, though. Plus, when you've been streaming for as long as I have, you do tend to pick up on when things aren't working properly. So that name's going to have to change because it's not country anymore. This is when it was cross-country, that station, and it's not cross-country anymore. It's Southeastern. So we'll probably rename it Southeastern. And then, actually, it's a good point. Which one of these would be Southeastern? Because this is the line out of GSMA. So it might have to be that one. Exactly. Mind you, I do get that moment, like when the chat goes quiet, I do start thinking, is there a problem with the stream that I'm not aware of? Which is why I do the passive-aggressive, chat's gone a bit quiet, because it's kind of me wanting to check if it's working still or not. But I'm a very narky individual as well, so there's a lot of that in it. Exactly. You're all responding. You're all talking. You're all answering. It's not just the fact you're talking, you're also directly responding to what I'm saying. I think Planpool needs a big station too. We'll build one of those. We'll use dispatch cabins, because why not? Uh, 3, 4, and then like just benches and planters. We'll rename that. Little Hardingham. Actually, which way round are the slow and fast? That's the fast line there, isn't it? Yeah. And the slow line's there. Okay, so the other right way round. Had a horrible feeling then I'd put them the wrong way round. That would not have been good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, yeah, round the lake. This very much reminds me of the Western Reaches South, where the two lines split. I feel like we need to have like some crossover. Maybe here, just before Planpool, we'll have some crossovers as well. That would be good. Again, I won't build them right now because I can't be bothered. But when it does come down to it, I'll build them in. No problem. Let's put some benches. Nice sign. CTA. And a planter. We use that CTA. Just to spice things up a little bit, make it a bit variable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grand Central has been granted permission to operate an extra Sunderland service. That's cool. Where are they getting their trains from? Are they inheriting the 180s from Hull Trains? Because I know Grand Central had a train issue recently. In fact, Hull Trains did as well. I've always found the 180s to be a strange type of train. Like, I don't really know what it was designed for. 125 mile an hour running, obviously, but they break down a lot. So they obviously weren't designed for long periods of running, and yet they were designed for the Great Western Mainline. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine on that one. You can tell this route we're building here on screen right now is just like the Great Central Railway, where every station was built at a road crossing. There you go. Nice little elevator shaft as well. 180's going to EMR. Oh, are they? What are Grand Central using nowadays then? Are they just stretched to the capacity with their 180s? Alright, halfway point of the stream. We're done. So before we start the second half, first of all, any updates on that Reddit post? Because if it's something I can tweak in game, I can do it on stream. Secondly, I'm just going to have a look at how much... Oh, actually, let's do some building over here at Mondham first. Get this growing back again. So what I'm going to do is all here. I'm going to lift all this land up. There we go. And this little bit in here, and this little bit here. Not that bit there. So you want to go along here and up here. Yeah, I'm just going to survey the route between Drentbourne and Bahecity, because I have a feeling it's quite a long way. So we might split it into two, which means there will be a stream next week, because I want to get this project finished and planned before I take the break. No updates. Replace HSTs, so fleet did not expand. Oh wait. Passenger numbers were up on Q1 of 2019-20, up by 2.4%, only London Overground GWR. Yeah, so Grand Central used to be HSTs, and then they had some, they are Atalantes, aren't they, the 180s? They drafted some of those in, because I think some of the 180s went to Hull Trains, because First Great Western and First Hull Trains are obviously sister companies, so they shared a lot of trains with each other. But then First Great Western took the Atalantes back from Hull Trains, and then when Grand Central started looking at replacing HSTs, they brought in 180s to do that. So that's the story as I know it. But the question then is, what's happening? First of all, why don't they just go back to HSTs? Because they're reliable. At the end of the day, they're reliable. They're nice. They're not old and rickety like some people make them out to be. Secondly, if the 180s are going to EMR, why not give them to a company that's already got them, rather than a company that doesn't have them? Oh, only London Overground and Great Western didn't grow. Okay. But then we know why London Overground didn't grow. Great Western's a funny one, though. Maybe it's just stagnant year. I know there's been a few issues with the old electrification. You know, it's cancelled, it's not cancelled, it's cancelled again. I imagine people don't want to get messed about on that kind of thing. Whoops, that was me bashing my microphone, sorry about that. Alright, let's build another bridge. We've got all these bridges facing the same way. Let's put some going the other way as well, shall we? We can stick one here as well. Went down even then. Oh, I reckons growth could have been higher if Easter had fallen late. Yeah. If it's a small percentage like that, nothing to worry about. Sometimes you just have an off year. And there's always things that happens, like new trains get introduced and stuff like that, which means the next year, so 2020 numbers are probably going to be too high because of, you know, the Azumas entering service and stuff like that. So you almost want to leave it another year or so before you start reading the numbers with too much sincerity. You kind of want to give it a chance to settle a little bit, you know. That's not a suspension bridge, that's a viaduct all day long. Okay, so Mondum should now be able to regrow a little bit from the absolute travesty that I've left it in. Apologies, people of Mondum. The good citizens of Mondum. and we'll do not there. Here, let's do a little connection here as well. There we go. This bridge I can probably get rid of in the future too. And I know this might be part of the problem, but I will do a fund new buildings just to get some growth back here as well. Oops. Let's pin the rail up again. Grand Central gave the HSTs to EMR. Oh, is that what you meant? Wait, what? No, what I meant was Grand Central and Hull Trains currently are the only companies that run 180s. So why not take... Because Hull Trains have now got the 802s. So why not take the 180s from Hull, because they don't need them anymore, and give them to Grand Central, who already know how to build, well not build, but know how to maintain them, and standardise the fleet, rather than giving them to a company that's never used them before, and expecting them to instantly get them running smoothly. Just, it won't work. It won't work. I'll tell you that now. Will not work. Okay, so let's survey this before we start building. So the Drentbourne to Bahecity railway is this one that we're following here. It's actually not that long a route. It's not that long a route. And I'm almost tempted to make it a little bit more direct. So you can kind of see how it snakes around to pick up passengers from all these different towns. But like here, for example, we can pretty much go in a straight line through Fort Rondworth, and then we don't need this station here at Charnbridge. Likewise, like it does a lot of snaking around here, which is unnecessary. So I think if we just go from Kewham straight along here and then up through Great Puddinghatton, what a horrible name, and then up through Suthill and then round through Punley Market and then into Bahecity. I think that's what we're going to do with this rebuilt route. I also need to check. Oh, there's a box where my foot used to go. That's annoying. This is the wrong line. I'm following the wrong line. Ah, here. So yeah, we'll simplify things here a little bit. We'll have a new station here as well at the west side of Plynston. Do we have a Plynston somewhere else? That name sounds familiar. Did you know Hull Trains 802s have been named Paragons? Yes, I did know that. I thought that was quite fitting. It's to celebrate the importance of railways in the history of Hull. I know they've also asked people to send in name suggestions. I wonder where they got that idea from. I jest. But yeah, I think it's cool. I've always liked public naming. As long as it's taken seriously, you don't end up with like Trainee McTrainface, because that's just stupid. If you give people trust to do things like this, then they've got to, you know, they can't abuse that trust. So hopefully there's some good names that are suggested that reflects the history and importance of Hull. We shall see. And then there was some more comments after that. Let me check. Whoop. That's not what I wanted to click at all. I wanted to click that. I just clicked the first yellow thing I saw. That was dumb. I will electrify all this, even though it's all going to get rebuilt. There we go. Grand Central gave the HSTs to East Midland Railways, but Hull Trains will give its 180s to East Midland Railways to replace the HSTs, so it's possible to transfer its HSTs. Might be more reliable. Well, that's kind of the point I was making earlier, is the 180s haven't been that reliable for the last few years. So for me it would make more sense to transfer the 180s to Grand Central and maybe take the HSTs and transfer them to something like cross country, because aren't Grand Central and cross country both Arriva? Is it Arriva? I think it's Arriva. So they're basically sister companies. So you have that kind of cross knowledge between the two. I am going to build. Fronwood Valley is going to be a 4-platform station with the fast tracks in the middle, in case anyone's wondering. Actually, we might call it Nentil and Fronwood, something like that. This here, I kind of wanted to take it back down to 2 platforms, but I think 4 is fine. 4 should be fine. And then, yeah, the top speed along here is going to be 100 miles an hour. So this is the first place where we're going to consolidate the lines a little bit. So I'm going to remove that. I wish there was like just a remove track function. So you know, like in Factorio you have the deconstruct planner. I kind of wish there was something where I could just drag it over this area and say remove rail track from this area, rather than having to individually remove track pieces. And before anyone says just use the bulldozer, no, I'm not going to just use the bulldozer. I'm not that ruthless. They won't do that because the HSTs have to be gone under Department for Transport specifications. What? I'm not saying keep the HSTs. That's not what I said at all. I said transfer the 180s from Hull trains to Grand Central, because they're a company that already knows how to use them, already knows how to maintain them. They won't have to do any driver training on the new units. And then the HSTs that are due to be gone from East Midlands Railway, transfer them to transfer them to cross country, because again they know how to use them, and that's what they were designed for. They were designed for long distance fast running. It makes total sense. That's instead of giving the 180s to East Midlands Rail, who the 180s and the 222s, they're different companies that built them, but they're quite similar in design and functionality. But you're getting rid of A and replacing it with B if you do that, essentially, and it just doesn't make sense why you would do that. Like, if they're going to get new trains, just get new trains. Don't mess around saying we're going to replace them with these old trains that may or may not work and we have to do 6 months driver training on, because that's when people get pissed off and say, well, where's this new train service you promised us? The last thing we need right now is another catalyst for people to say the railways are bad. There's too much of that going on right now. Just do the simple thing that makes sense. Alright, that's going to be faster running now through there. Oh, that's even worse as a stopgap. So now they're taking a train that no driver at East Midlands knows how to drive, and they're going to spend 6 months training them up, and they'll probably be in service for the same amount of time that it took to train the driver on how to use it. How dumb does that sound when you say it out loud like that? Just replace... build new trains for East Midlands, take the old HSTs and give them to cross country, and then take the 180s and give them to Grand Central. Problem solved. You don't need to have hundreds of thousands of pounds spent on inquiries into transfer of rolling stock. Just do the simple thing. Keep it simple. Exactly, that's my point. New trains are on order, so just wait for those. Keep the 222s. And the, in fact, it is just 222s now, isn't it, East Midlands? Because they're replacing the other, the 156s and all that stuff. They're all getting replaced. So just do the simple thing. Keep what you've got until you replace it with something new, rather than trying to train on something new and then train on something else that's new. I know all because the DFT said so. They're talking out their arses. They are talking out their arses. This is the same DFT that can't award a franchise without there being some controversy, right? And the same DFT that have consistently failed to deliver planned upgrades on routes that they said they would do so many years ago. I think I said this in a stream previously, but My Railway magazine, they were talking about new rolling stock being introduced in Britain. And there was a quote from when the Class 91s were introduced on the East Coast Main Line that said their designed top speed, their in-use service top speed is 140 miles an hour, but until planned infrastructure work on the East Coast Main Line is carried out, they will be restricted to 125 miles per hour. Fast forward 30 years, I think it was 1989 that the 91s were first introduced on the East Coast. So fast forward 30 years to 2019, the Azumas are introduced on the East Coast Main Line with a quote that said their service speed is 140 miles per hour, but until planned infrastructure work is carried out on the East Coast Main Line, they'll be limited to 125. What does that tell you? 30 years, nothing's changed. Who's in charge? The DFT. And it's got naff all to do with privatisation as well, before anyone says that, because the Department for Transport is very much a nationalised thing. So's Network Rail, and it's those two that fail consistently to deliver planned upgrades on time. They went almost 20 years over schedule to get the Thameslink programme done. Almost 20 years. 2000 it was originally meant to be done for, and I think they finished it in 2016. And even then, was it last year that London Bridge finally reopened and all that stuff was over? It's just a joke. It's an absolute joke. And not even a funny one. It's just a joke. I said I wasn't going to rant tonight. That went well, didn't it? All Reed, welcome to the stream, by the way. Sorry you entered on the middle of the rant. Cross country probably getting the 221s from West Coast. Yeah, that's an issue as well, because they're not designed for running. That's why I said the HSTs can run on the Cornish coast and the Devon coast, whereas the Voyagers and Super Voyagers struggled. So why not use the trains that were designed for the route on the routes that they were designed for? I know it's this crazy idea that I've had, but I think it might work, guys. There you go, George agrees. Use HSTs. When I was 14, it was 6 hours on train Darlington to Poole. This is now an 8 to 15 hour trip. Yeah, it's not great. But then again, people blame cross country and it really isn't their fault, because they have to plan and cram all of their services around what everyone else is doing. And that's just never going to work, is it? Treat them like an actual franchise. And give them control over some of the stations as well, because there are stations in the country that are only served by cross-country trains that they have no say in the management of, and that's also dumb. Give them control over those things. Give them control over key stations and key routes. Make them responsible, because I think they'll live up to it. I don't think they'll let anyone down. Give them status. That's basically what I'm getting at. Make them feel like they actually are a franchise rather than just the forgotten child. Up to 20 Class 91s being exported to work freight trains in Europe. Wow. That's a very novel way of reusing them. They are some of the most powerful electric locos in the country, Class 91s. They got a lot of beef in them. Surprised they're not being used here. Cross country has problems with capacity on trains and tracks and a lack of services. I think cross country needs to go back to what intercity used to do. So look at some of the key cities around the country and connect those to each other, avoiding London. That's what intercity cross country used to do. Cross country now really just fills the gaps that no other franchise has. Plus they have the Aberdeen to Penzance service, which no one really uses that service to get to and from work, or at least not for the whole journey. More often than not these days people make that journey just to say they've done it. They might get on the train at like Edinburgh and get off at Newcastle and things like that. So it's still got its uses, don't get me wrong. But I think it needs rejigging, it needs redoing. So I would look at things like Liverpool to Brighton used to be a service that was done by Intercity. Newcastle to Bristol, which is on the current cross country. Ones like that. I mean, I haven't got a map in front of me right now, so I'm not just going to sit here reciting place names. But just it needs a complete rethink and a re-overhaul. And no one's brave enough. No government is brave enough to actually do that. They all sit there in their high horses and talk about the rail industry and how it's failing, but no one's actually willing to sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and actually work through each individual issue and solve it on an independent basis. They always say things like it's up to the rail franchise holders to solve the problem, but it isn't really, because the DFT are the ones who are in charge of it all. They're the ones pointing the finger and saying you didn't do this and you didn't do that, but then they're also the people that told those people however many years ago you can run this railway, and then didn't let them, waited for them to fail and then blamed them for it. You can just see how that was never going to work out very well. It's kind of the stop hitting yourself thing that you used to do at school. Zachary, welcome. Why not use HSTs as a stopgap? We need to stop using the word stopgap for a start. You can't introduce a train temporarily on a franchise. No. Particularly if it's a train that's not been used on that franchise before. HSTs are a slight exception, because pretty much all the mainline franchises have at some point used HSTs. But on the West Coast, HSTs haven't been in use since the early 2000s. And even then it was mostly 86s with Mark 3s. Yeah, Mark 3s. So no driver working for cross country who's joined in the last 4 or 5 years is going to know how to drive an HST. Because even when they get HSTs in on loan, I think they also hire in drivers from other franchises who know how to already use an HST. So they need a complete rethink on how they're doing this. They need to go away and come up with an active plan of action, and don't start acting on that plan of action until it's complete. It has to be a fully thought out process, because we keep half-arsing things at the moment, and we always get halfway through the process and then just give up because it wasn't working, inverted commas. And again, it's very easy for us to sit here and pass judgment. None of us have any experience in the industry. We're all armchair fans, effectively. But I do feel like we have good ideas. We could at least speculate. Hitachi tips to win an order, refurbish Pendolinos. Why Hitachi? Isn't it Bombardier now that owns Alstom? Oh wait, no, it might be Hitachi thinking about it. Who owns Alstom? I thought it was Hang on, I'm going to Google that, because that's something I feel I should know. Oh, maybe they do still own themselves. Yeah, no, they own themselves. Ah, General Electric. Okay, that probably wouldn't make sense then. Yeah, there was an Alstom factory in Birmingham, and they closed it down. That's what the Newcastle to Poole route was. Hits all the major towns and bypasses London. Yeah, because not everyone wants to go into London on a journey. Birmingham New Street is full to the brink. That's why you need to consolidate services. You don't just add new ones. You take out the old deadwood as well. So what you want with Birmingham is you want less trains that terminate there, and more trains. So like the inner Birmingham suburban commuter trains, instead of terminating at New Street, have a look at if there's one that approaches from the south and then one that approaches from the north. Why not combine them into a single service? So you still get the same frequency of trains running through, but it doesn't clog up the platforms with trains waiting to head back the way they've just come from. Where's the largest station on the map? On this map, the one you're looking at right now, probably Gardcity St George. Fort Flonwood Parkway is big. Don't get me wrong, but I do think GSG is bigger. I might be wrong there, though. I might be wrong there. It's not up to the rail companies. Literally, we have the same problem on road networks, footpaths, cycleways, etc. And the only way to get it sorted is a total upheaval of our current system. Yes, exactly. Don't blame the rail companies. It is not their fault. They are literally managing a sinking ship right now. And it's getting worse and worse and worse, and no one wants to help in the government. All they do is point the finger and say you should be doing this and you should be doing that. But it's them who give the franchises out to these people. So my question really is, how are these people allowed to run these franchises if they're apparently not qualified to do so? And the answer to that is the answer that we all knew was going to be the answer to that, and it is because they offer the most money. They'll always say in these franchise award announcements that it was because they offered the best service, you know, the commitment to new trains. But what they never mention is how much these companies are paying. Because again, there was a documentary a couple of years ago now, Southeastern Commuters. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he managed to convince a bunch of Southeastern commuters to join together into a consortium to bid for the next Southeastern franchise. Which, first of all, is a terrible idea, because they had rail industry experts join them, but Clive from Slough isn't going to know how to run a franchise, is he? So even with the guidance and support, it was always going to be a failing bid, but it was meant to draw attention to the fact that these people have had enough, which is fine. But the reason really that they ended up failing is because they didn't have proof of funds. And during the documentary, it was pointed out that a lot of these companies that run these franchises say they earn in revenue £1 billion a year. Only 5 to 10% of that is profit. Like 50% of that money goes straight back to the government as part of the agreed payment, which is something that is very rarely mentioned. The government takes the money. It's supposed to go to Network Rail. Whether that actually happens or not, who knows. And then the rest of the money goes towards, you know, paying staff, track access charges, maintaining the trains, the hiring fee for the trains, because these companies don't own the trains. They lease them off leasing companies, which charge through the nose for the privilege. And then 5% maximum. I said 10, but I think it is 5 is the maximum that is made in profit. And always on the news, especially when Southern and the driver-only operation, because they wanted to save a little bit of money, and all the commuters were saying, oh, it's always about money with these people. Well, yeah, if you're only making 4% profit on £1 billion a year, you want to do as much as you can to increase your bottom line, don't you? I'm actually in favour of that, believe it or not. I'm in favour of driver-only operation as long as it's done safely. Transport for Wales are getting 170s from Anglia for 2 years before they go to EMT when Transport for Wales new trains arrive. Again, it just seems so short-sighted. Are there any drivers for Transport for Wales who are trained on how to drive a Turbostar, or are they all going to have to learn before they can operate them? The other problem with using stopgaps like that, as was proved with the Goblin line this year, if the new trains aren't ready and the old trains have to go because they're expected elsewhere, how are you going to run your railway? You've got no trains. So the stopgap there was they got Electrostars in, and Capital Stars, the 378s, and they had to shorten them before the new trains were introduced, and that's cost Bombardier a hell of a lot of money because they've had to subsidise free travel on the Gospel to Barking line for the whole of September. That was an expensive mistake. The trains might be nice now, but I think that will go down in history as a very expensive mistake. Armchair, I work for council and am involved. Okay, some of us might be qualified. I apologise. Some of us might be qualified. I'm an armchair fan. I'm here sitting on a stream every week saying, oh, these people don't know how to run a railway, whereas I have no idea how to run a railway. So to actually have an insight from someone who is involved, I'm very interested in hearing the stories that you might have to tell. Because again, there are people in councils who are perfectly capable and perfectly competent in their jobs, and it's the higher ups who are completely moronic when it comes to running these things. So I'm sure you can't spread gossip. I wouldn't encourage you to, believe me. Don't want anyone to get in trouble. But it would be nice to spread some muck. Or at least get to the truth of what's going on. That's the real crux of it, is what the hell is going on in the rail industry right now. How did we go from being one of the best to one of the worst? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing and it's sad. Because the 1960s were not a good time for railways, but the people who ran the railways were so proud of like the drivers, the guards, the station masters. They were so proud of their work and what they did. And I imagine if half of them saw what it was like these days, they'd be horrified. 170s are staying with Transport for Wales. Oh, you meant East Midlands. Well, again, do they know how to drive Turbostars for East Midlands? I don't think they do. Yeah, I didn't mean cross-country terminating at New Street. It was more West Midlands Railway. And East Midlands, I think, have some trains through Birmingham as well. But all the commuter trains, the cross-city line and things like that in Birmingham, reduce the number of terminating services on those lines and instead have them combined with other services. I think there was one recently where it was a combined service and then they realised that didn't work and they had to break it up again. Sometimes that happens, but if it can work, do it, because then you free up more platform space to have more long distance trains run through Birmingham. They did a really bad job of rebuilding Birmingham New Street, by the way, because they didn't touch the platforms at all. They left the layout pretty much as it was. The only thing they changed was the shopping centre above. So the dark depths of hell is below where the trains are, and there's diesel fumes and no one can breathe in because they probably catch all sorts of diseases from the air quality. But it's okay because they built this massive stainless steel box above it which keeps all the air inside. Genius. Southwestern fail issues for a year. They say it's only 5 to 10% profit. Have you never heard of creative accounting? I believe it though. I believe it. It's 5%. These people aren't rolling in money. The companies aren't rolling in money. The directors probably are, but those who, boots on the ground, they're not seeing any of it. I do believe that the rail industry is getting more and more expensive every year to run, and there's less and less reward. That's why companies like Deutsche Bahn are now bidding for more rail franchises than British companies are, because there's no incentive for a British company to get involved because the numbers don't add up. You don't get your return. Whereas the German government finance their railways anyway. They subsidise them. So they don't care too much about the bottom line. They just want to run an effective railway. And they're coming over here because they do actually make some money. it's a really, again, I don't know the full ins and outs, so don't quote me on everything I say here, but it's a very flawed system, and it doesn't take a genius to work that out. It is a very flawed system. What's the other thing I saw? I think it was on a reader's letter in my railway magazine. Someone was saying that they did a job for Network Rail, and the job cost like 30 quid, but they were told to put 90 down on the invoice, because every year it's like the budget thing. So if you come in under budget, next year your budget will be lower. So they were told basically to fudge the numbers a little bit, not illegally, but charge more for a job than they otherwise would, so that A, they make more money, and B, the budget for next year remains the same as it was for the previous year, or if anything goes up, because then they can argue that they didn't have the budget to fulfill everything in that year. And it might not be dodgy, but it sounds dodgy. You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds wrong to do something like that. But there you go. Right, we're pretty much done for the stream now. We've rebuilt all the stations. Whoops, that's what I wanted to do. I've talked and talked and talked and talked and talked, which I wasn't planning on doing, but I've done it anyway. What else have we done? Why are these signals all facing the wrong way? Don't know. We've rebuilt this line between between Drentbourne and Bahecity. We've also rebuilt the line between Kingston and Buntbourne. So all the Bournes are now reconnected. It's all looking good. Boots on the ground get nothing ever. That's why they tried to make trains a one-man operation. Yeah. But again, I'm in favour of that if it's done properly, and if the reasons for doing it are proper. It could just be about saving money, but these days, especially on the rail, it's not like the days of rail track where things were done on the cheap and safety was not considered. This time around, it's safety is paramount. It's the first thing that you care about when you're building on the railways. Thales and Eurostar are planning to merge. That's news to me. I hadn't heard that. That might not be a bad thing. Inflation in OpenTTD stops increasing after the first 170 years, so it won't get any worse. You're going to have to just play for fun this time and make sure inflation is turned off next time. So there's literally no way of undoing it. That's so dumb if that's the case. Because I turned inflation on, sure, for realism reasons. But then when I realised that that was a stupid thing to do, I turned it off again. And I do get, by the way, that the game was only designed to run for 150 years tops. So I'm not saying it's dumb necessarily that the game has inflation, but I am saying it's dumb that there's no, particularly this day and age, there's no reversal. That seems a bit, well, dumb. And in terms of next time, there wasn't going to be a next time. Like, this was the map I was going to work on for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years. So if there's no way to fix it, that raises some questions. If someone's able to tap into like a secret config file somewhere and see if there's a setting that can be changed, I'd appreciate that. This was the issue with the local councils before government changed it. They were all getting their yearly funds and not returning it, and thus government had to change it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Some people on the forum say you could probably edit the save, but there's no information on how to do it. Thanks for coming in, Allreed. Glad you could join us. There won't be a stream next week. It'll be a couple of weeks before the next one. As I say, I'm going to have some much deserved time off, work on some other projects, and then we'll be back in the not too distant future with some more OpenTTD. Gives people an opportunity to help me with this problem as well, having a couple of weeks off. yeah, any more questions, any more comments, any more anything really before we wrap up? It's been a productive couple of weeks streaming here, doing all the Southeastern stuff. I'm really looking forward to getting the trains running, which is why I want the damn financial problem to be solved. Because even with inflation, £31 trillion a year is a ridiculous amount to be losing. It's unbelievable. Yeah, doesn't look like anyone else has got anything to say, so I will start wrapping up. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Tom, Ben, George, Frank, Ulreed, Zachary. Who else did we have? DGTZ. Who else was in? I'm sure we had some more people in than that. Golfing Gamer, but that's Tom again. Just Having Fun. And Nirasa. Thank you, everybody, for coming in and chatting. This has probably been the busiest chat we've had for a long time as well, so I'm very happy about that. I will be streaming some other stuff over the next couple of weeks. It's not just a case of I'm going to disappear for 2 weeks and then come back. Planet Coaster is still going to go up every Wednesday. Factorio every Tuesday and Thursday. Euro Truck Simulator will be back again in the not too distant future, as in next week. I want to get back into Train Sim, particularly working on that Isle of Wight route that I streamed before, because I really like that route. So it's not my route, before anyone asks. It's not my route, but it's the Isle of Wight Metro route. I think I've linked it somewhere on my channel, I can't remember. I recommend downloading it though, because it's a really good route. And I'll be working on the Somerset Hills Railway as well. So yeah, there's lots of good stuff, lots of train stuff. And I will stream on Twitch from time to time, but I think stuff like that, my audience is here, so I'll be streaming it on YouTube. So keep an eye out on the channel for any planned streams. It will always go up on my Reddit as well, so subscribe to my Reddit community if you haven't done so already. And yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes and stuff like that. George, send me an email or get in touch on Discord. Or Discord? You don't have Discord. I will actually say that, by the way. I'll say that in a second. George, get in touch with me via email or on Reddit about the maps. I'll let you know the kind of thing I'm looking for. But yeah, I am going to put a link in the description to this video, if I remember, to my Discord server. Because that's also a good place. I'm on Discord every day doing XVI work and M4J work, so it's the best place if you want to send a direct message and for me to read it and reply almost immediately. So I'll send that out as well. Also follow me on Twitter and like my Facebook page, because everything I post on Reddit automatically now drips through to Facebook and Twitter as well, so you'll see the same messages on all three sites. So you can follow me on any of them, and also check out the M4J Media website at m4jmedia.com or .co.uk, because again, all my social media stuff is on there, and there'll also be blog posts and news updates and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of stuff to keep up to date with M4J. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, I will see you soon.